Good evening. No one really knows just how many women are raped every year in this country. Based on the disparity between actual and reported assaults, estimates range from 100,000 to 800,000 such crimes a year. Whatever the number, experts agree that the psychological trauma is often more devastating than the physical toll. Tonight, Lisa Rudolph explores a promising but emotionally painful therapy that offers new hope to women trapped in a nightmare.
I don't know how I'm ever going to live through this. I just don't see how I'm ever going to get out of here.
Sherry Williams is trying to come to grips with something that has tormented her for years. What she's doing could be a breakthrough for millions of women.
And I just want him to go away.
I was afraid.
Sherry couldn't walk the streets in broad daylight.
Everybody looked like a potential threat.
Even church was terrifying.
I just got that feeling of, I can't stay here.
On the outside, Sherry looked like she was coping.
So make sure your brother comes in for court on Friday.
With her job as a parole officer and as a mother of a 13-year-old son.
I didn't roll yet.
But inside, she was falling apart because of a traumatic event that happened 2 years ago in her home.
I woke up and I just got a vision that somebody was standing outside my bedroom door. I just assumed this was somebody that was coming to rob the house. But he told me to lie down on the bed. He had taken my hands one at a time and put handcuffs on my hands. And that's when I realized he's here to rape me.
So he raped you?
He raped me. That's when he started putting the gun to my head. He would lean over and just press that gun up against my head and say, you know, be quiet, don't talk.
Did you feel like this was it?
I really did think this was the second. This is the moment he's going to kill me now. And I just started to pray. I thought, you know, Lord, take my soul.
After he raped her, Sherry's assailant went down these stairs looking for money.
And at that moment, it occurred to me that there was a window right outside the door.
In her nightgown, hands cuffed behind her back, Sherry ran down the hall to an unlocked window. She heard the rapist coming back up these stairs.
So I'm thinking, you have 3 seconds.
She managed to pry the window open and jump out.
And I must have crumpled to the ground a few seconds after I hit the ground.
It took 8 weeks to recover from the severe bruises on her feet and fractures in her legs, but the real pain was only beginning.
I basically had no life. That's the way I felt. And at a point in time, I cried and told myself, why did you jump out of that window and save your life if this is how you're going to live? You have no life.
Sherry moved out of the home where she was raped, but the attack still haunted her. Everyday activities became impossible. She never knew what would trigger the memory.
What would happen when you'd watch a movie like Thelma and Louise with a rape scene in it?
Wait, don't!
I felt like it was happening to me.
But it was just a movie.
No, it was me all over again. It was me all over again. I was standing there, I was sitting there and I was looking at her, and she kept saying, you're hurting me. And tears were streaming down my face. I was shaking.
You were desperate for help, basically.
Right, right. I realized he came here to rape me.
When traditional rape counseling didn't help, Sherry turned to Dr. Edna Foa, a renowned psychologist who discovered that women who survive rape suffer just like soldiers who survive war.
What made you think that rape victims and combat veterans suffered the same kinds of disorders?
The symptoms are the same symptoms.
Symptoms like flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety. In fact, FOA estimates that half of all rape victims are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder 3 months after the attack, and 1 in 7 are still suffering years later.
Who are the rape victims that get it?
We think that the ones that are pushing it away, the ones that don't talk about it.
He's moving toward me, and I jump up out of the bed, and I'm just screaming and screaming and screaming. And I see he has a gun in his hand. He's pointing this gun at me.
FOA is the first in the nation to take a therapy used for vets called flooding or prolonged exposure and apply it to rape victims. The idea is to get them to confront their fears head-on by reliving the trauma over and over. FOA says of the women who've been raped and treated with flooding, 80% show improvement after only 5 weeks of therapy, a remarkable claim considering many of these women have suffered post-traumatic stress for years.
You really think that you can solve it in that short a time period?
We're not talking really about absolute cure. We're talking about making the life much easier. You don't have to be afraid that the memory is going to control you because you can control the memory.
Dateline was given access to these videotapes of Sherry's intense twice-weekly sessions with therapist Blanche Freund.
Put your head back, close your eyes.
In her first session, Sherry starts the story without emotion. Listen to the flatness in her voice.
And he leans over, he's laying on top of my back and puts his gun to my head, and he's pressing it into my temple, and he's telling me, you know I could kill you, you know.
But by the end of the story, she begins to cry. The memories are too painful.
I don't want to do this anymore.
As Sherry grows upset, Dr. Freund tries to comfort her, but Sherry becomes hostile.
I hate you. I didn't do this to you.
By the second session, Sherry's back where she started when she talks about the rape. Listen to how remote she is.
And I hear him coming back up the steps now, and I can't get to the window, and I'm trying to get the window up. And
By her third session, Sherry questions whether the therapy is ever going to work.
because I was feeling last night, like this may be more detrimental than beneficial.
She starts her story again.
I'm handcuffed. I'm under the threat of a gun. I'm in a situation that I can't get out of now.
She can talk about the terror of the rape, but it's only words. She's still holding back her emotions.
Yeah, I'm not really getting any feeling.
Sherry has reached an impasse. She's questioning the therapy, and she's battling the homework assignments, like going to crowded public places. Since Sherry was attacked from behind, being any place with people behind her was terrifying. And she had to listen to audio tapes of her sessions while at home.
I was afraid to listen to them. There were times when I'd have to turn them off in the middle. I couldn't even listen to them all the way through.
Your heart was pounding.
My heart was pounding, my palms were sweaty, my stomach was in knots. It would give me headaches, it would just wear me out. I couldn't do it.
The therapy is so excruciating, Sherry begins to skip sessions.
It was a torture. I'd drive up to the hospital, and I'd slow down, and I'd drive right on by. I couldn't stop, I couldn't go.
Is it cruel to push someone who's been so terrorized and have them live it over and over and over again?
I don't know. I wouldn't call it cruel. We're encouraging them to experience what's in their memory that they've effectively pushed down. We're not creating any monsters for them. They have those monsters there.
Sherry kept at it. Finally, during the fourth session, a dramatic breakthrough, just a few weeks after she began.
This is the fear that I'm going to be raped again. I don't want to have to get over another rape.
It turns out, back when Sherry was in college, a man dragged her into the woods and raped her. It was only when she was raped a second time that the trauma of the first attack came flooding back.
I'm supposed to be raped 2 times. I'm thinking I can't take this anymore. I can't hold myself together for another second. And if I start fighting him, then he's going to kill me. She needed to cry. She needed to sob. I mean, she went through a horrendous experience. The bottom line was, she was afraid that she was going to be shot and killed. And that was that core fear sitting around there. And she didn't deal with that at all those months.
I faced it. I absolutely faced it. And I didn't explode. And then I felt better. I actually did. I felt like I could float.
In the last 2 weeks of treatment, the terror that once gripped her so completely begins to fade away.
It almost got to the point where I was sick of hearing it.
Today, Sherry says those 5 weeks of therapy changed her life. She's even writing the story of her rape, hoping to get it published.
Is it over for you?
It's over. I don't live with it. I don't think about it every day. I can walk down the street. I go to church every Sunday. And I know now what I didn't know before, that this could happen to me again. It could happen today, 20 years from now, anytime. And I live with that.
Are you cured?
I'm cured.
Edna Foa and her colleagues have been treating women like Sherry for 8 years now as part of a federally funded study at the Medical College of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Now Edna's hoping to bring her brand of therapy elsewhere. She's training workers at one local rape crisis center now and says they should begin treating women next month.